This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so let's get started. Okay, guys, so we'll be starting with the dictionary. So, see, the thing is, dictionary is something that works with the pair of keys and values. It is another kind of data structure, and that works with the mapping. So, mapping is actually a key is mapped with the value pair. So, this is like mapping are nothing but it's a kind of a collection of objects that are stored by a key and value pair. So I'll just show you a very basic example of the dictionary. So this is like, so let's say my underscore dict. Let's refer to any identifier, any variable I've taken as a dictionary. The dictionary is always enclosed within this curly braces, curly bracket. So key one, it's a colon sign and it's mapped by value one, comma key two mapped by value two. This is a basic construct. Right. So what I'm showing, see this is mapping. Key one is mapped to value one, key two will be mapped to value two. So see this is a sign for like colon is actually representing that it's been mapped. The key two is mapped to value two, key one is mapped with the value one, and there are two key value pairs. It is key one, key two value two, right? Another code cell I can introduce. First cell takes little time to execute. Yeah. So if I ask my underscore dict, that comes out in this format, key value pair. Now the thing is, you can also call the value pair just by calling the key. So let's say if you type my underscore dict, and let's say that's equal to, let's say key2, it's value 2, right? Now this is like while calling a key pair, I can find what is the value. So we'll see some more element calling of the key and the value pair. Now here, the thing is, dictionaries are very flexible in the data types that they can hold. Now let's say for an example, if I'm writing some couple of code cells, let's say if I type my underscore dict, and let's say that's equal to key one, okay, comma, oh no, sorry, let's say 123. So key one value pair is 123. Key one value is key one value one is 123, right? Now let's say key two, if I'm typing 12 comma 23 comma 33, so key two value is 12 23 33, right? Now comma, let's say key three, and let's say that's equal to item one, item two comma item three. Okay, now you can see like key one is having a number, key one key two is having a list, key three is having a list of strings. So these are the item it can accommodate. Now let's say if you ask my underscore dict, and let's say if you type somewhere like e3, so you'll get the output as the value pair. It is item one, item two, item three. Now the thing is, can you tell me what is the index value of item one? Can you please type it on the chat box? Within the list, what is the index position of item one? What is the index position of item one? 0. Okay. Now let's say if you want to call this element or either this element or either this element. So what you will be doing, you'll be typing the same command and you'll be introducing another square bracket and you'll be calling 0. So it will call item 1. Okay. So let's say if you want to call item 3, you will be writing the second index. Because of the key 3, what is present at the second index of the value, which is item 3. If you call this, so item 3 will come. Now the good part is like you can also work with some inbuilt functions. Let's say if you type my underscore dict and let's say that's equal to t3 and let's say 0 dot upper. So what it will do, it will convert this element into the uppercase, right? I think this also works with this. Lower, it's already lowercase, so it populates the same item. Let's say if you type my underscore dict and that's equal to e1, you'll be getting the number. So it's not necessary that the value pair is always you can say it's a kind of a string. It can be a number, but the good part is you can perform the arithmetic also to this value. So let's say if you type my underscore dict, that's let's say key one, and let's say if you type my underscore dict key one minus 123. Now we know that the value of this thing is 123. So 123 minus 123 comes out to be 0. Now this will be stored in the, it's a kind of a value assignment, right? Now you can see while placing the cursor over the my deck, so it is populating like what kind of data structure, what kind of data is stored in my underscore deck. The collab is telling me. So this will actually return like 0. Like if you say, let's say if you again ask what is my underscore key one, so it will return 0 because earlier it was 123 and now you have subtracted 123. That is the value has been updated as 0. So it works in this way also. Now let's say if you ask, if you see the value of my underscore dict right now, if you see the value of my underscore dict, so it's actually will be something like this. So you can see earlier it was like having 123, but right now since we did the item reassignment, so you can see it's been updated as 0. Okay, I hope are we clear? Are we clear with this? So this is one thing. Another thing we can see. Let's say if you do something like, let's say D is equal to, it's an empty dictionary and it's an empty dictionary that will help you to create the new dictionary, right? So let's say if I type D and in the parenthesis if I type animal and let's say that's equal to dot. Okay. Now let's say if I type D, mm, India, let's say if I type Asia. Now, if you ask your collab what is D, so you can see the result. So from the empty dictionary, I've created the elements. All right. So guys, this is another one way of creating the dictionary. Now I think this also works with this. Asia, let's say third world, third world. If you ask, so you can also update the value. Earlier it was like Asia, now it's the third world. So this is a role of the item reassignment. So lists can be changed; they are mutable. Unlike your tuples, which we will be looking right away. So this is something related with the you can say creating a dictionary from an empty part. Now let's say you can also do some more modification to dictionary. Let me introduce a couple of more code cells. Let's say if you write nested, nested is something inside of something inside of something. It's called as nested. So nested dictionary would be a dictionary inside a dictionary. Let's say key one, and if you type uh, nested key, and to that nested key, all right, to that nested key, if you are typing uh, subnest key, it's not like you can type anything, another nested key, and to that you are again typing, let's say value. So you can see like this colon is actually, see, this is a key pair, this complete thing is a value pair. Now again, this is a key pair, this for this the complete thing is a value pair. Now this is a key pair, this complete thing is a value pair, right? Now if you see what is T, so D is a kind of a nested dictionary. All right. Now let's say if I want to call the this particular element, this like an element calling. So what I'll be doing, I'll be using, let's say key one, then followed by this particular argument which you have placed over here, which is nested key. I'll just copy and paste over here. Then let's say another argument, which is another nested key over here, right? So you'll be getting the value. So this is how the element calling work with this. Now we can also refer to some dictionary methods also. Let's say if you type P is equal to a very basic example. So let's say key one and one, comma key two, two, okay, comma key three, three. It's a very basic example, right? Now let's say if you type D dot keys, you'll be getting the key pair. I think if you introduce a list in front of it, so you'll be getting the key pair in the form of the list. Now, if you type, sorry, values, right? So you'll be getting the value pair in the form of the list. Now, let's say if you type D dot items, this is another inbuilt function, and let's say that is enclosed in list. So you'll get it just like inside a list, you are getting a tuple. Tuple is also a kind of a data structure, right? That you will be learning right away. So this is it related with the dictionary. Now let's talk about tuples. Now tuples is also another guys, another kind of data structure. They are mutable. They are immutable means once assigned, immutable means once assigned a value, they cannot be changed. Now in this module, we will be learning how we can construct a tuple and basic tuple methods and why it is called immutable and when to use a tuple. See, guys, I'll tell you when to use a tuple. Some real-time data we don't want to be changed, like date, time. Okay, one assign, it will not change. So in that, if you have those category of the data in which you don't want any change to happen, so we'll generally think about tuple as a data structure, right? So that is the one thing related with the tuple. So I'll brief you about like something more in this. So first of all, tuples are immutable. That is one thing related with the tuple. So let's create a very basic tuple. Let's say that's equal to 1, 2, 3. Now let's say the length of tuple is 3, right? Oh, sorry, that's 3, right? Now let me create some more code cells. Now let's say it can also take different categories of data. So let's say if I type 1 and comma 2, this also works. Just a second, right? It's not working. Now let's say if you ask what is, let's say if you want to call this element right now, t is this. Let's say if you want to call 1, so you'll be using the indexing as 0. All right. Now it works the same way. So slicing -1. Can you tell me -1 will populate what? 1 or 2? It will populate 2. Yeah, perfect. So if you call this, so it will populate 2. Now let's refer to some basic tuple method. Let's say if I type t dot index, so it will give me a 0. Let's say if I type t dot count, so it will give me 1. Okay. T dot index is what is the index of 1? So that's 0. What is the count of 1? 1 is actually the frequency or the occurrences of how many time it has been occurred. Let's say if you again type 1, and let's say if you again type 1. So right now the 1 has been appeared 3 times. Now let me update the value. If you ask how many times 1 is there, so it will populate 3 times. So it also returns the count of the number. Now, let's say if you remember this particular thing, I've just updated the value of dictionary. Like earlier, I had taken India is equal to Asia. Then afterwards, I've taken India is equal to third world. So it was updated. But if I do the same thing in my let's list in my tuple, let's say if I ask if I do t is equal to 0 and if I update the value as changed, right? It won't work because tuple does not support item assignment. So that's why they are called as immutable. You cannot change the tuple. All right. Now, if you remember the list, there was an attribute called as append. This we have learned yesterday. I hope all of you remember that. Append. Okay. So let's say if you type t dot append, right? So tuple the object does not have any attribute called as append. So it will not work. So you may be wondering like tuples, where to use the tuples. Now it always used to maintain the data integrity, which is like you don't want your data to be changed. So let's say if your data is backed up by some timestamp or let's say some date, okay, so then the usage of the tuple comes into the picture. So this is like see almost if you compare list and tuples, they almost looks the same, but the difference is list is mutable and tuple are immutable, means they cannot be changed when you assign the value to the tuple. So this is one thing related with the tuple. So are we clear with this part? Like when to use it, where to use it? These are some data structure, right? Are we clear with this? Now the next data structure which I'm going to talk about, I'm just keeping it like this so that you can understand. So I'm going to talk about set. Yeah, you cannot do anything. You can. I think pop method was there. Pop was actually working with this. Let's say t dot pop. If I apply, and, mm, let's say if I apply pop, um, won't work. I guess pop does not work. Yeah, does not work. You cannot remove the item. Now let's talk about set and boolean. Okay. What is the query?
Madam, I'm not understanding regarding the pop actually.
Okay,
Hello?
okay. Yes, yes. I
Sorry.
got your question. I got your question. Okay. See, the thing is, pop is actually used to remove some item, but once assigned, you cannot remove an item in tuple. So that's why tuple has no attribute as pop. Similarly, it was not having any attribute as append because you cannot remove or you cannot add anything to the tuple. So that is what I want to say. Pop is only used to remove an item, but you cannot remove it because tuples are immutable, right? They cannot be changed.
Okay.
Now let's say if x is equal to set. mm, let's say x is equal to set. Set and boolean, there are other two objects in the data type. One is called as set, another is called as booleans. Sets are unordered. You can say yes, we can do that. We can do that here by assigning the index position. Like let's say 0. Let's say if I write x square bracket 0, then you can add it at the top. Okay. Now x is equal to, so I was at the set. So sets are an unordered collection of unique elements. We can construct them by using the set function. Now let us see one example. So this is like a very basic function to add the set. Now let's say if I type it in this way, x dot add 1, all right, and it is x, so x would be 1. So this is 1 I've added as a set. Actually, the thing is, set actually uptakes the unique items. So I'll show you of subsequent example. Now let's say if I add 2, and if I again see what is x, so it will comes out to be 1 and 2. Now you'll better understand in this concept. Let's say list 1. Let's say it is 1 comma 1 comma 1, 2 comma 2 comma 2, 3 comma 3 comma 3, 3 comma 4 comma 5. So long list, right? Now let's say if I apply set of list 1. Now see over here you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 repeated, right? Now let's say if you find the set, so it generally returns you the unique elements. So all the duplicated part will go away. So this is one property of the set. And okay, now let's say, now this was all about set. Now let's talk about something which is related with Boolean. So guys, always remember one thing: Booleans is actually referring to yes, true and false into the data. So predefined true and false are there. So with the integers, they are 1 and 0. 1 is for the true, 0 is for the no. It also has a placeholder called as none. So none, N-O-N-E. So we are going to talk about each and every example. So a small example of Boolean. All right. So let's say A is equal to true. That's a Boolean because as I initially said, mentioned, Boolean comes up with A and true and false. So A comes out to be true. Now, let's say if I apply one comparison operator, let's say 1 is more than 2, the answer is false. The answer is a Boolean. All right. So if I ask 2 is greater than, if I say 2 is greater than 1, the output will be true. All right.
Which one not understand actually?
What part? Can you tell me the line number like 50, 51, 52?
This Boolean actually only. Age
Okay.
is true condition. What about how the one greater than two is coming false? Actually.
Actually, it is something like, let's say if you take A is true,
Yeah.
A is true. This is one example. This is another example. Let's say if you are asking your Python if is it one more than two, so the answer is false. So it will
Okay. One
return.
greater than two. Okay. Okay. Okay.
It has nothing to do with A, right? All right. So let's say if you type B is equal to none. All right. Sorry. This is one empty placeholder. Let's say if you type B is equal to none, and if you ask your Python what is P, so right now it will not return anything, but if you write print B, so it will return none. All right. So this is just like in order to make you aware about like the basics of data structure. So far we have seen like strings, list, tuples, and you can say there are so many other dictionaries. Dictionaries are very popular in mapping functions, and we have also seen another category of the data structure this sets in the booleans. So all these are very important. Now I'll be talking about another league of the data structure, which is called as Python statements. Just a second. Mhm. Sorry, it's actually I have started some pictures. Just a second. Yeah, now it's better. I'll be talking about Python statement. Statement. Okay, so we are going to talk about this. So guys, this involves some popular functions like else if or list comprehensions and some useful operators, while statement, while loop. So can you tell me like one thing, like what's your understanding of the term loop? Just type it over the chat box. What do you understand with the term called as loop? What's your understanding of the term called as loop? Can you type on the chat box, guys? So what do you mean by loop? Loop, or you can say you repeated execution of the same code. Yeah. So can I say loop is something which is never ending. Loop is something which is never ending. All right. So loop is something which is never ending. So that is what my understanding of the loop. It keeps on goes on and on until or unless you stop it. Okay. So let's say for an example, I'm going to construct one statement. We'll talk about loops also. We'll talk about iterators also. But let's say this particular thing will be working in the Python statement. Now I'll type let's say just consider it to be an English syntax. So if true, print it is true. So the output will be true. So okay, so as you can see this thing. Okay, let me show you in the OneNote. There's a term which is called as indentation. Indentation is indentation or okay. So indentation is actually referring to you can say let's say you have written this Python code, right? So after writing this Python code, you can see over here, uh, it is not coming in the same line of the this particular thing. The reason is there is a concept of the indentation. Indentation is actually referring to four spaces or one tab, one single key of the tab or four spaces. This is actually this is stating that this if true, then you have written a colon. So this whatever the execution that would come in the next line, this execution is having a relevancy to this part. Let's say this is line 1, this is line 2, so you can say the line 2 will have a execution based on line 1. So that is the role of the indentation. So you'll make it more clear with some more examples. I'll give you some more examples related to this. It will be more clear. Consider it to be a syntax. Syntax is nothing but set of rules of writing the Python coding. Just consider it to be a syntax. Let's say if I type x is equal to false, and let's say if x, there is an indentation sign, so colon. So you can see the next line is having four spaces automatically. So I'll be printing x is true, or say x was true. Now it's just like in English. If this, else this. If true, then it will go to this condition. If it is false, then it will go to the next condition, whatever you will be writing. Let's say I will be printed. Be printing printed in. So this was the thing. X is false. That's why this particular part was printed. So it went to like if X, then this. If X is true, then this. Else, if it is false, then this thing. Now let's say if you write true over here. So guys, what will be the output? Can you please type? X was true. Perfect. So that's a very basic code.
Pratul, 1 minute, I have a doubt.
Mhm.
When we are typing this print statement, is it required to take the spaces, or else automatically the print statement will start after 4
See,
spaces?
yeah, automatically because it's a part of an indentation.
Okay,
Because since I'm
automatically.
using a colon, so the next line will automatically will have the four spaces.
Okay.
It's a kind of a general rule, you can say. Like actually it is referring to if x, so this print x was true is actually having a relevancy to this particular line. Else, then this will be having a relevancy to this line. Actually, it is bounded by this if x print, this one x was true. and it is bounded by this particular part. Now let's say, see the difference. Let's say print, this will, now let's say if you write this thing, again this will print. See, in both the example, the difference is actually this, both the execution are related to the else part. All right, now see, you will find it very interesting. Now let's say if I type this thing false, both the statements are getting printed because it actually went to the next condition, which is the false one. All right. Now let's say for an instance, if you type it over here, if you take the print over here, and let's say if it is true. Okay. So guys, what's output do you expect? Just tell me this. What output do you expect?
X was true.
Perfect. Samir and Priya, right? The reason
No.
is,
Yeah.
okay.
In the why the print is coming, this will print actually, because true condition is we are going to apply now. Then if
See,
X is will
else inside the else we have I will be printed if X was not true. This was inside the else condition, right? Now this print, this will print. This is outside the else condition. This has to come. Okay, so this works in this way. Like earlier, it was if you place it over here. Let's say if you place it over here. So this is, and you do the thing. Only one statement would come. The reason is, now this, both the block of code is associated to else right now. Now if you place it over here, now with the else, only this particular block of code is associated, right? So anyways, this has to be printed because it's not associated to if and else in this particular case. But right now, if you put a tab, this print will be associated to else. So that's why the output was coming out to be X was true.
no, but you said that the print option on the line automatically system will take the 4 spaces, correct? 4 space.
Yes, yes, yes. 4 space or 1 tab space.
Okay. If you okay, so will we modify that thing actually manually there?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Miss, my question is okay. System is taking 4 space, correct? As for the inbuilt function. But I want to reduce the space 3, so reduce to 4 to 1 space. Then
It's
definitely.
not possible. It will not work. It will throw an error.
But now, right now, I think you reduce that thing, then automatically.
And I have not reduced it. See, this thing 1, 2, 3. This actually backed by 4 spaces, and if you write it in different IDE, but actually the best way is just press one single tab. That's it.
Okay.
It will come in the same line. Now let's refer to some more part based on this. And let's say if you another code. Let's say if you type LOC, that's equal to bank, and let's say if LOC, see with the with some conditional statements you can write. Okay, and let's say if you type print welcome to the auto shop, Now this is one thing, like this is if the condition and is true, so this part will be printed. If it is false, so this part will be printed. Now let's say if your condition is backed by more than two part, let's say more or three, four more condition. Now let's say if lock, then this particular part will be printed. Now let's say elif, let's say lock is equal to bank, right? So print welcome to the bank. The last part is else, print it it does not matter. Okay, now let's say if I type this, so you can see welcome to the bank, because bank LOC was equal to this particular part, lock is equal to bank, so it will be printing this part. All right, so you can see this is one thing which you can do. Now another thing, like you can also inculcate some multiple statements. So let's say another LF you can introduce. Let's say some more conditions. If LOC is equal to bank 2, right? So print this will be printed. All right. So let's say, guys, can you tell me what will be the output for this? Okay. No, you cannot take. You can take as many as output as you want.
This will be printed.
Yeah, this will be printed. Nursing, I recommend you to please also focus on typing it on the chat box, right?
Chat box. So okay.
Yes, correct, guys. This will be printed. Okay, so this is how it works. Now, guys, this is an example of elif statement. Print elif can you can use so any number of times you want. You can use it 100 times, 200 times, 1000 times. Totally based on like how many conditions you have in your Python programming. All right. Now let's refer to some more example. Let's say if you type list one. Now there is a term which is called as parsing in Python. Parsing. Parsing is just like moving in the Python. I'll tell you like what do I mean by parse. It's just like going through to each and every element. Now let's say there is an element something like in a list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now there will be an element X that will come. It will first go to 1, then it will go to 2, then it will go to 3, then it will go to 4, then 5, then 6. So it's actually going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so that is called as parsing, or you can say going across each and every element, right? Going across each and every element. So this is a term which is called as parsing, right? Parse through. So I'm just going to talk about one Python programming over here, so which are called as loops. So for loop basically. Okay, how does it work is something like, let's say if you type list one, that's equal to 1 comma 2 comma 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. And let's say comma 10. And now let's say if you type for, this is a syntax for num for x in list 1, then indentation print x. Okay. Now guys, if x goes to one first number, so x is actually 1. Now x goes to second number, so x is actually 2. X goes to third number, so x is actually 3. X goes to the fourth number, so x is 4. X goes to 5. X goes to 6. Okay, so this is how it goes. Now let's see this example. Over here, x is anything you can write over here. X in list 1, so print x. So for if you are applying a for function or for loop, so it's actually going through each and every element. So if you print this, so actually it will print each and every element because x went to 1 first. So x is 1 right now, so it got printed. X goes to 2, so it got printed as 2. X went to 3, so it has printed as 3. X went to 4, so it is printed as 4. X went to 5, so it is printed as 5. X went to 6, so it is as printed as 6. So this is how the for loop works with the parsing. I hope are we clear with this? Okay. Very basic example, right? Now, let's say if I type, see if you remember modulo function. So let's say if you divide 17 by 5, so can you tell me what will be the remainder? If you divide 17 by 5, so what will be the remainder? It's 2. So this is an example of the modulo function. If you divide anything by 5, or let's say if you divide 17 by 5, so the remainder is 2. If you divide 18 by let's say 6, what would be the remainder, guys? So it's completely divisible, 0, right? Now the thing is, I'm going to use this as one logic in order to find the even numbers from a list of 1 to 10. Now guys, I hope all of you are clear with the concept of even numbers. Even numbers are the set of numbers. Those which on dividing by 2 will give you a remainder of 0, right? If you divide any even number by 2, the remainder is going to be a 0. So this logic we are going to apply. Let's say if you type for num, you can say anything you can write. For x, you can write. For a, you can write. Anything you'll write. So for a in list 1, let's say if you are typing if number percent 2, that's double equal to 0. Okay, print a. Okay, so this is actually the logic is over here. A is one element which will go through each and every number of list 1. Now it will check this condition. If you divide a by 2 and the remainder comes out to be 0, then it will print a. All right. If it will be divided by 2, right? If the remainder comes out to be 0, then only it will print an a. So you can see it will actually return all the even numbers, because let's say if a was 1, a on division by 2 is not giving you the remainder as 0, so that's why it is not getting printed. All right. Are we clear with this part? Okay. Now the next thing is you can also use else with this. So let's say if a division by 2 comes out to be 0, so it will print a, else it will print, if the condition is false, this is an odd number. Okay, actually has to be over. Yeah, indentation. Yes, exactly. I missed this part. That will work. I hope, are we clear, Shamir? What actually is what you were mentioning? So this is actually related with, like, if A is 2, let's say the first element for A would be what, guys? Can you tell me the first element for A? 1. Now, if so, that's why it won't print it. So 1 was not divisible by 2. That's why it went to the next condition. So the next condition is this is an odd number. So while A as 1, this is an odd number. So this will be printed. All right. Now then the next is 2. Okay. Because A, the second times A element is 2. So 2 divided by 2 will give you the remainder as 2. So print A. So 2 was printed. Now the third time the A is 3. 3 on divisible by 2 is not giving you the remainder as 0, right? So that's why it went to the next condition, which is this is an odd number. So that's why this is an odd number will be printed, and so on. It will work. If we don't write anything in the print, okay. I hope makes sense to everyone. I'm forgetting that. Are we clear with this? Okay. Any doubts, any confusion? Now you can also, okay, you can also find the list sum also. Let's say if you type list, if we want to print the even numbers, we need to create another list. Yes, you can do that. Odd number, you just need to change the logic. All right. See, that's why a logical acumen is very important in Python. Now let's say if you type this thing, okay, now let me show you one last illustration. I'll call it a day after that. Let's say list underscore sum. Let's equal to 0. And let's say if you type for num in for anything you can type. Let's for x and list 1. Let's say if you type list underscore sum, that's equal to list underscore sum plus num. Print list underscore sum. Okay, so this is one example I'm going to do. Just a second. Oh, are you getting? How do I get 55? Like, actually, this is one logic. How does it work? I'll tell you. Let's say if some list sum was initially 0, right? Now for x and list 1. Now you remember that the list 1 was actually this thing, like, let's say list 1 was actually a list of first 10 a set of numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now list sum was initially 0, right? Now x in list 1. So x will go to the first element of the list 1. All right. So list sum is going to be, since you know that the list sum value is 0. So 0 plus 1, which is the first element. Because right now x is 1. So 0 plus 1 will give you what? 0 plus 1 will give you what? 1. Right now, the value of list sum is 1. Okay. Now, again, this loop will continue. X in second element. So, second element is 2. Okay. Now, X right now is 2 and list sum is 1. So, 2 plus 1 will be 3. Now, the value of the list sum would be updated as 3. All right. Now, you know that the value of list sum is 3 and X will go to the third element because it has already underwent to, it has already go to the first and the second element, right? Now it will go to the third element and 3 plus 3 would be how much? 6. Okay. Now, right now, list sum is 6. X will go to the fourth element. So 6 plus 4 is 10. Now list sum is going to be 10 right now, right? Okay, and it goes on and on until or unless you will add all the numbers. So that's why if you print list sum, so which is the last portion, this is going to be 55. Are we clear with this? Yeah, Shushit, I'll give you some more example, but I'll continue the same section tomorrow, right? Reverse loop sequencing, I'll give you. Shushit, okay. Okay, so any other questions, please ask. Nrusinganath, can you, do you have any questions?
Yeah, this one is, I got it. What about the 71 field actually? 71 line.
71 is actually something related with like, let's say if you divide, it's a remainder. It's an operator to get the remainder.
But okay, but how the output is came normally 17 divided by 5, no?
It's not a divide sign is this.
Okay.
This is a remainder sign. Like if you want to get a remainder between two numbers, so you'll put this one.
Okay, reminder. But how the output is come 2 actually, so that I'm little confused.
So general maths, if you remember, like 17, 5, 3 ja, 15, remainder is 2. So that's why you are
Okay,
getting
reminder
the.
2. Okay, reminder 2. Okay, I got it now.
Okay, are we all clear with this? So
Yes.
I'll just. Okay. So guys, let's call it a day. I'll give you the sheet, right? Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just update the sheet on the drive on the e-learning, right? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you guys.